Okay, this is video, Locke, and empiricism. All right. Paul, we need to zoom in. There we go. All right, first question is, in the first video, John Locke influenced the works of all of the following except...
John Locke was a hugely influential English philosopher of the 17th century, whose ideas, particularly in the realm of political philosophy, are still hugely relevant today. Born in 1632, Locke is an important figure of the early European Enlightenment, and certainly many of his ideas had a considerable influence on later major Enlightenment thinkers, such as Immanuel Kant, David Hume, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
All right, so Kant, Hume, and Rousseau, so not Hobbes, which makes sense. So number one, Hobbes. All right. In the first video, John Locke argued the mind is a tabula rasa, meaning, and we did this one before, so you should have an idea. Blank slate, white paper, empty cavern, soft sponge. Yes, soft sponge. Totally.
Since he was such a polymath, who wrote and thought on an extremely broad range of interests, this talk focused on his contributions in three main areas: epistemology, political philosophy, and religious toleration. Firstly, epistemology. Locke, following in the tradition of the likes of Francis Bacon, was an empiricist. Indeed, probably his best known work, An Essay Concerning Human Understanding, 1689, is one of the first great defences of empiricism, and concerns itself with determining the limits of human understanding in respect to a wide spectrum of topics. As he argues, no man's knowledge here can go beyond his experience. It thus tells us in some detail what one can legitimately claim to know and what one cannot. Linked to this is Locke's so-called theory of mind, which is often cited as the origin of modern conceptions of identity and the self. Locke was the first to define the self through a continuity of consciousness, arguing that the mind was a tabula rasa, a blank slate.
All right, so there we are. So we have blank slate for number two. Number three. In the first video, true or false, Locke was in agreement with absolutism.
Became filled with knowledge derived from experience, observation, and experimentation. This was in contrast to the pre-existing Cartesian philosophy, which stated that we are born with innate ideas. Secondly, political philosophy. Locke's writings on political philosophy should be considered against the volatile and often violent background in Britain in the second half of the 17th century. The Civil War, the establishment of the Commonwealth, the restoration of the monarchy, the Glorious Revolution, and the advent of the Bill of Rights, where the supremacy or sovereignty of Parliament, as opposed to the monarchy, was finally established. Locke's most important political work, Two Treatises of Government, was published in the same year as the Bill of Rights, although Locke had written it much earlier. In it, he shows himself to be strongly against absolutism.
All right, there's our next. So in the first video, true or false, Locke was in agreement with absolutism, so that is false. Which hopefully you should know by now. So absolute monarchy, he was obviously against. In the first video, true or false, Locke was in favor of separation of church and state.
Contrast to Hobbes, and in favour of the separation of church and state.
Well, there was that. That came up fast. So, true for number 4. In the first video, Locke believed humans were selfish in nature, but they were characterized by blank and blank. Love and power, reason, tolerance, truth, honesty, morality, and trustworthiness. Let's see.
Locke's political philosophy was deeply influenced by social contract theory and can be very briefly summarised as follows. Firstly, an individual is born into a state of nature, but each person has God-given natural rights that are not subject to any kind of government. Like his predecessor Thomas Hobbes, Locke believed that human nature was inherently selfish, but unlike Hobbes, Locke believed human nature to be characterised by reason and tolerance.
All right, so reason and tolerance. In the first video, Locke believed in the natural rights of life, liberty, and hopefully you know this by now as well. Otherwise, I'm concerned.
Secondly, this state of nature is unstable, and individuals are at risk of physical harm. This means that they are unable to pursue any goals requiring stability or cooperation with others. Thirdly, in such conditions, government arises, since individuals can see the benefits which can be gained by relinquishing a number of their rights to a central authority. This takes place in the form of a contract. The impact of Locke's political thought and his fundamental belief in the right to life, liberty, and property.
All right, life, liberty, and property. So property, I do believe, yes, property. All right, so number 6 is property. All right, in the first video, Locke believed that blank was not only a right, but an obligation in certain circumstances. So hiding, killing, jailing, or revolution. All right, so...
can be seen very clearly in the United States Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution around a century later. Locke also advocated governmental separation of powers and believed that revolution is not only a right, but an obligation in certain circumstances. He is often known as the father of classical liberalism, with quotations such as the following, typical of his belief. The end of law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom.
All right. So, revolution. So, this would be really like a good example would probably where this didn't happen is like Nazi Germany, where the government wasn't working, at least for a solid good amount of the people. Well, especially later on, at that point, people were afraid anyway, so no matter what they thought, didn't matter. In a sense, Locke would probably say, you guys should have revolted against your own government because it wasn't working. All right, in the first video, true or false, Locke supported enforcing a religion with violence so that everyone would have the same morality. Well, I'll give you one guess.
Thirdly, religious toleration. The 17th century was not only a time of political upheaval, but also of religious turmoil, in particular the European wars of religion. In terms of his own beliefs, Locke was broadly Protestant, and he thought that the entire content of the Bible was in agreement with human reason. He thought that enforcing a single true religion on people could never have the desired effect, because belief cannot be compelled by violence, and indeed coercing religious uniformity would lead to more social disorder than allowing diversity. Ironically, although Locke was an advocate of tolerance, he urged the authorities not to tolerate atheism, because
as they would lead to chaos. So number 8 is false. All right. And so this comes from the second video, so let's finish this one, which is almost done, and then we can move to the second one.
He thought the denial of God's existence would undermine the social order and lead to chaos. In summary, although many argue that Locke's influence during his own lifetime was negligible, his influence on later Enlightenment writers and the modern-day political institutions of many Western countries was very significant indeed.
All right. So colonial America, we don't really, so colonial America is probably going to be a representation of how these concepts are implemented, because we don't go as much in detail about America, because in the 8th grade, you will be focusing on the United States and North Carolina history. So, all right, in the second video, Locke's theory of politics had 3 parts. Which of the following is not one of them? All right, divine rights, consent of the people, natural rights, moral obligation to rebel.
Okay, let's face it. Philosophers are confusing. With their big words and their ethical debates. Who knows what they're talking about?
Oh, hang on here. Let me go back. Anti-disestablishmentarianism. So against anti-disestablish. So not having an establishment. So against not having an establishment. All right.
Big words and their ethical debates. Who knows what they're talking about? And none are more confusing than a British guy by the name of John Locke. His speciality was politics. I know, that sounds confusing and boring. But like most things that are confusing and boring, what he had to say was actually very important. His theory of politics had 3 parts. Natural rights, consent of the people, and a moral obligation to rebel.
All right. So, as I know, all of you guys know by now, the answer is that it did not include divine right. I'd hope we all know that. Since this whole time it's been against absolute monarchies, and the big change is from monarchy to democracy and republics, or at least the attempt of getting there. All right. The 3 things we know as blank rights are life, liberty, and property. Current, lawful, consenting, natural.
You heard me right. Moral obligation to rebel. Excited yet? So the first part centers around the idea that when God created man, he endowed each of us with certain rights. Among these rights are life, liberty, and property.
And there we go. Oh, wait, did it say natural rights? I'm not sure. It's gonna say natural rights. True or false, the right to liberty means that no one has the right to imprison you against your will unless you're sent to jail for breaking the law.
Very important. They're known as natural rights. Rights that were naturally given. As long as you exist, you get these rights. They should never be denied to anybody. They should never be taken away by anybody. They're for keeps. The right to life is the right to live. And live whatever life you want as long as it doesn't infringe on the right to life of others. That means you can dye your hair pink and listen to rock music all day. You can have a cat, or 2, or whatever, and anything in between. Just as long as you don't take any life away from anybody else. Sorry, Jason Voorhees. The right to liberty means no one has the right to imprison you against your will, unless you're sent to jail for being naughty.
All right, so true for number 11. No breaking the law. All right. True or false, the right to property is explained as we own our bodies, therefore anything we acquire as a result of the physical labor of our bodies becomes our property.
That means the world is your playground. You can explore nature in Europe and wherever you want. But if you break the law, your right to freedom is taken away, and you go to jail. Pretty fair. Now, the right to property seems a little out of place in this list. But really, the right to property is a combination of the right to life and liberty. What? Okay, I'll break it down. Bear with me. In the state of nature, men are free to do as they please, so long as they preserve peace and preserve mankind in general. Because they have the right to self-preservation, it follows that they have the right to those things that will help them to survive and be happy. God has provided us with all these materials we need to pursue those things. But these natural resources are useless unless men applies their efforts to them. We own our bodies, therefore anything we acquire as a result of physical labor of our bodies becomes our property.
All right, so true on that one. So basically this is a motivational sense. Like, we're not going to interact with the world and do things or acquire things if there isn't a reason to do that. Unless maybe like food. But for example, you won't care about having a house if it isn't really yours. John Locke actually believed that the community should not revolt. Going against the government was treason no matter what. And at this point, you should also know the answer to that.
So what does that look like? If I need shelter to live, and I work to cut down a bunch of trees, the house I built is mine. If I need corn to live, and I plow soil and plant seeds, the corn that grows will be mine. If I need protein to live, and I raise chickens, and I love them every day, the eggs they produce will be mine. Our work is an extension of ourselves, and therefore just as important as our right to life and liberty. Now, because everyone has the same rights, John Locke believed that made everyone equal. That meant no man had a higher status, was more valuable, or had more rights than anybody else. I'm pretty sure everybody loved that idea. So where does government fit into all this? Well, according to John Locke, government power is the natural power of each man collectively giving up into the hands of a designated body, forming a compact or agreement. Wait, what? I thought we could never and should never give up our natural rights. Ever. You're right. But there is one time it's acceptable to relinquish a few rights. Our rights are really important, but we're just one person. There are a lot of bad guys out there that don't always follow moral laws of nature and might try to take away our rights. We need a hero to protect those rights. A government hero. Government forms when a bunch of people give a smaller group of people, whom they elect, access to their rights. And then a government is born. Aww. The citizens enter a compact with the government. Citizens give the government some of their rights. In exchange, the government protects their rights when they're under attack and acts in ways that best serve the people. The government exists because the people allow it to. But what happens when the government becomes evil? What if the government tries to take away one of our natural rights? What if it denies us the right to life? What if it doesn't allow us to be free and explore and find new ways to be happy? No! What if they take away our right to property? Not to worry. John Locke believes that the community has a moral obligation to revolt against or otherwise replace any government that forgets that it exists only for the people's benefit. That means...
All right. Oh, hang on. My eye itches. So, if the government isn't working, then, and by you, it's by working for the people. So it's not like, oh, one person should be going up there and revolting against the government, or a small group should be revolting against the government. It needs to be affecting a significant, very significant amount of people. So, false. I'm just saying that because otherwise you'd have every person going up there for any reason and being like, I'm overthrowing this. But that also means you wouldn't have the amount of people needed to overthrow the government anyway. So there's that. Alright, then we've got the third video, so let's finish this one.
Out with the old, in with the new, start from scratch with better government. Why would we say something that extreme, that we should get rid of an entire government? Natural rights are that important, according to John Locke, and maybe some colonists.
Alright. Third video. What was it? Let's see. In the third video, Locke published blank anonymously in 1689.
John Locke had several other theories and ideas that have had huge impact across the world, even well after he died. Three we've already discussed are his blank slate or tabula rasa theory, his description of inalienable rights of life, liberty, and property, and his insistence on the separation of the powers of government. It's important to keep in mind that not many of Locke's ideas are particularly original, but they gained the most popularity due to the Enlightenment. Locke was a prolific philosopher, writing well over a dozen long works in his lifetime, some of which were published after his death. In the last video, I briefly mentioned his two treatises of government, which was published anonymously in 1689.
Alright, two treatises of government. Which would be the plural of the plural treaties. Don't ask what's up with that. It's like a double plural situation. And that's why reading Enlightenment stuff is difficult, because of words like that. Treatises. Locke believed that humans needed society to protect humans from each other. Sounds about right.
This is one of his most famous essays, and it's as long as several books. And he talks about a whole bunch of different topics that have a great deal of relevance today. We're going to look at just one of these today, called social contract theory. Since Socrates and the ancient Greeks, philosophers have been talking about the idea of a social contract, but the Enlightenment and John Locke changed the way that we view it today. First of all, what is the social contract theory? Socrates defined it as an agreement between peoples of society to abide by laws and accept punishments. Basically, if you live in a society, you agree to follow the rules. But why should people join a society in the first place? Why wouldn't they live on their own? Philosopher Thomas Hobbes believed humans were evil in their natural state, and that society, government, and laws existed because humans needed them for protection. This concept was called the state of nature, and Hobbes believed it was the worst possible outcome imaginable. Locke, however, completely disagreed. He proposed that humans are inherently good, and, because we are all born equal, that the elimination of government would lead to liberty and equality, where everyone's inalienable rights would be guaranteed by each other. Locke realized that some people might take more than their fair share, and it's because people want to guarantee the protection.
Alright, hang on. Let me read this again, just to make sure. Locke believed humans needed a society to protect humans from each other. I want to make sure it's not... So I think that's going to be Hobbes. So this is false because of Hobbes. Make sure you let me submit this before you submit it, just so I can be sure. Because I think this is actually... Yep, no, that is false because I flipped it. So in the third video, Hobbes believed that government was there to protect humans' inalienable rights. So this is also false. So both of those are false, and they're flipped. All right. Perfect. So false, and then true. So, no, not true. 16 is false. What am I doing? So, 15 false, 16 false. Let me say it again. All right. Ugh. Okay, so this is flipped. So Hobbes believed humans need society to protect humans from each other, and Locke believed the government was there to protect humans' inalienable rights. And I guess that's technically it there. But I'm going to let this run. And you guys can click submit and let me know if any of that was wrong.
Of their inalienable rights, that they form governments or a social contract. All of these members sacrifice a little liberty to follow laws, but gain protection of their rights. Through his explanation of the social contract, Locke promotes the idea of popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty is the belief that government is created by the members of social contract, and that its power comes directly from them. Not only does the power come from the people, but they should also have some say in the way their society is run. Locke says that popular sovereignty is the only way to fairly govern any social contract. Because the ultimate power comes from the people and not God, sorry Carl, any society where the people can't make decisions about how to protect their own rights could form a new government. But what happens then is in the next video. Okay, time for some discussion questions. Number 1. Can the divine right of...
Stop there. All right. So make sure you have false for 16.